The Empire had conquered 17 galaxies. They had crushed civilizations that built cities in the hearts of stars. They had broken species that lived for 10,000 years. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and looked at the small blue planet rotating slowly in the void. His four eyes narrowed with disgust. "This is it?" he asked his science officer. "This tiny world is the source of those strange energy readings." "Yes, Supreme Commander. The inhabitants call it Earth. They are primitive. Their technology is barely capable of reaching their own moon. They have no shields, no plasma weapons, no interstellar travel. They fight among themselves constantly. Our scans show they have destroyed large portions of their own environment." Laughed. The sound echoed through the massive bridge where hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Each one of them had participated in the destruction of at least one civilization. They knew what was coming next. "Begin the purification," commanded. "We will add this world to our empire before the cycle ends." The fleet numbered over 2,000 ships. They descended upon Earth like a swarm of metal locusts. The humans below had no warning. One moment, their satellites showed clear skies. The next moment, the sun was blocked by an armada of alien vessels. The attack began at dawn over the Pacific Ocean. Plasma beams struck the water and turned it to steam instantly. Coastal cities vanished in explosions of light and fire. The targeted military bases first. They destroyed communication networks, power grids, and government buildings. Within the first hour, 3 billion humans were dead. Watched the destruction from his bridge with a bored expression. He had seen this scene play out hundreds of times before. The primitive species would panic. They would try to fight back with their useless weapons. Then they would surrender, and those who survived would become slaves to the Empire. But something strange happened on Earth. The humans did not surrender. Ground forces landed in what remained of major cities. Soldiers, each standing 8 feet tall with armored skin and weapons that could cut through steel, expected easy victory. Instead, they found resistance at every corner. Humans who had lost everything fought with whatever they could find. They used explosives, traps, and tactics that confused the invaders. A commander reported back to, "Supreme Commander, the humans are not behaving as expected. They continue to fight even when victory is impossible. They sacrifice themselves to destroy single soldiers. Our casualties are significant." "Significant," leaned forward in his command chair. "We have conquered species that could bend reality with their minds. How can these primitive creatures cause significant casualties?" "They do not fear death, Supreme Commander. They fight as if something drives them beyond survival." Dismissed the report. He ordered more troops to the surface. He commanded his ships to increase the bombardment. Cities that had stood for centuries were erased from existence. Mountains were flattened. Rivers were boiled away. They believed they were winning. They did not notice the changes happening beneath the surface of the planet. Deep under the earth, in places no human had ever reached, ancient machines began to wake. These machines had been built billions of years ago by a species that had long since moved beyond physical form. They had seeded the universe with life and left guardians to protect their creations. Earth was one of their most precious experiments. Humanity was meant to evolve, to grow, to eventually join the cosmic community. The guardians had been sleeping, waiting for the moment when their protection would be needed. That moment had come. The first sign appeared in the ruins of what was once called New York. Soldiers were hunting surviving humans through collapsed buildings when the ground began to shake. They assumed it was an earthquake caused by their bombardment. Then the street split open, and something rose from the depths. It looked almost human, but it stood 30 feet tall. Its body was made of metal that glowed with inner light. Its eyes burned with energy older than the stars. Behind it, more figures emerged, hundreds of them, then thousands. The soldiers opened fire. Their plasma weapons, which could melt through starship hulls, did nothing. The beams struck the Guardians and were absorbed without effect. The giant figures raised their hands, and waves of force swept through the streets. Soldiers were thrown backward, their armor crumpling like paper. Reports flooded into the Eternal Dominion from across the planet. The same scene was happening everywhere. Giant figures were emerging from the ground, from the oceans, from the mountains. They were protecting the surviving humans and destroying any that attacked. Could not believe what he was seeing on his screens. What are these things? Our intelligence showed no such beings on this planet. His science officer's voice trembled. Supreme Commander, the energy signatures match nothing in our database. They are ancient, far older than our civilization, perhaps older than any civilization in the known universe. Impossible, slammed his fist on his chair. Nothing is older than the Empire. But his denial could not change reality. The Guardians had fully awakened now. They moved in perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Some protected groups of human survivors, creating shields of light that blocked all attacks. Others went on the offensive, walking toward ground forces with unstoppable purpose. Tanks fired every weapon they had. The Guardians walked through the explosions without slowing. Aircraft attacked from above. The Guardians raised their hands and sent beams of energy that cut through the sky. Ships fell like burning leaves. For the first time in his long career, felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. "Pull our ground forces back to the ships," he commanded. "We will destroy this planet from orbit. Prepare the extinction beam." The extinction beam was the Empire's ultimate weapon. It could crack a planet in half. It had been used only 3 times in the Empire's history, each time to destroy a world that could not be conquered by conventional means. The massive weapon charged at the heart of the flagship. Energy gathered from the ship's core, building to impossible levels. Watched with grim satisfaction. No Guardian, no matter how ancient, could survive the destruction of their entire world. Firing in 10 seconds, his weapons officer announced. The countdown began, 9, 8, 7. Then the Guardians on Earth's surface looked upward. They raised their arms in unison, and something changed in the space around the planet. A barrier formed, invisible but unimaginably powerful. It wrapped around Earth like a protective shell. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, firing. The extinction beam lanced down from the flagship. It struck the barrier and stopped. The energy, enough to destroy a world, spread across the surface of the shield and dissipated harmlessly. The planet remained untouched. Stared in disbelief. Fire again. They fired again, and again. Each time the barrier absorbed the attack without strain. The science officer ran calculations frantically. "Supreme Commander, the barrier is drawing energy from somewhere else. Another dimension, perhaps. We cannot break through. Our weapons are useless." Before could respond, the Guardians made their next move. The barrier began to expand, pushing outward from the planet. It swept through the fleet like a wave of pure force. Ships were thrown aside, their systems failing, their weapons going dark. But the Guardians did not destroy the fleet. That was not their purpose. Their purpose was protection, not vengeance. Instead, they sent a message. It bypassed every security system, every encryption, every filter. It appeared directly in the minds of every in the fleet, from the lowest soldier to Supreme Commander himself. The message was simple. It was a memory. The Guardians showed what they had done. They showed every death, every destroyed city, every human who had been killed in the attack. They made the feel it, not as observers but as if they themselves were the victims. Fell from his command chair, screaming. Around him, every on the bridge collapsed in agony. They felt 3 billion deaths in a single moment. They experienced the terror, the pain, the loss that they had inflicted upon humanity. When it was over, lay on the floor of his bridge, tears streaming from all 4 of his eyes. He had never cried in his life. He had never known that he could. The Guardians sent another message. This one was words. You came to this world seeking conquest. You found something else. The beings who created us seeded life throughout the universe. They believe in the potential of all species to grow toward wisdom and compassion. We protect that potential. We protect humanity not because they are perfect, but because they can become something wonderful. You have caused great harm today. We could destroy you easily, but destruction is not our way. Instead, we offer you a choice. Leave this system and never return. Tell your empire what you have found here. Tell them that some worlds are protected. Tell them that cruelty awakens consequences, or stay and learn what true power means. Crawled back to his command chair. His officers were slowly recovering, but none of them would meet his eyes. They had all felt the same thing. They had all experienced the suffering they had caused. Retreat, whispered. His voice grew stronger. All ships retreat, maximum speed, leave this system. The fleet fled. 2,000 ships that had conquered galaxies ran from a single planet and its ancient guardians, looked back at Earth one final time as his flagship entered hyperspace. The blue world glowed peacefully in the void, as if nothing had happened. But knew the truth now. The universe was older than his empire. It had secrets his people had never imagined. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, there were powers that even the mighty could not comprehend. On Earth, the Guardians began to help rebuild. They healed the wounded, cleared the ruins, and restored what they could. Humanity had lost much on that terrible day, but they had also gained something. They knew now that they were not alone. They knew that the universe was vast and dangerous, and they knew that somewhere, somehow, they were protected. The Guardians would return to their sleep eventually. Their purpose was not to rule humanity or guide their development. Humans would have to grow on their own, make their own choices, find their own path to the stars. But the Guardians would always be watching. And if another threat came to Earth, if another arrogant conqueror tried to destroy this precious world, the Guardians would wake again. Some lessons are learned through victory, others are learned through defeat. The Empire learned their lesson that day. They spread the word across their 17 galaxies, a warning, a caution, a truth that changed their empire forever. There is a small blue world in an unremarkable galaxy. Its people are young and primitive and fight among themselves constantly. But that world is protected. Its guardians are ancient beyond measure. And those who threaten it will discover that even the mightiest empire can fall when it awakens something it cannot defeat. Earth remained. Humanity survived. And in the cold depths of space, the story of the arrogant conquerors who awoke the Guardians became a legend that lasted for 10,000 years.